people for coming. There were more people that will show up later. I appreciate you coming. I also know that the warriors that are here with us, they appreciate you coming. Now, by the end of my speech, you'll know why I have the warriors, you'll know who they are, and you'll know what they've accomplished in their life. So today, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, just so you know who I am and understand what my job is. I am Southwest Missouri's #1 true crime writer and victims advocate. That means I have had 13 published books, and I've written about over 300 cases on my book case. I work directly with the victims' family members, trying to bring them hope, trying to bring them peace, and trying to bring them justice. My podcast is called Chasing Justice because I believe sometimes justice doesn't come easy. Sometimes you have to fight for it. Sometimes you have to fight long and hard. Sometimes we don't even see it here. We see it in the next round or whatever it is. But it is worth chasing for. It's an honorable goal. And that's what this whole country is built on. We're supposed to be built on honor and justice. And these women and people that you're going to be introduced to today, they have not received their justice. So that's who I am and what I do. My first book was Unorganized Crime. It was a book of an ex-gangster from Chicago, and it was endorsed by a retired FBI agent. I very much appreciate his endorsement because I know the book wouldn't have made as big of a splash without it. But this book actually talks about his redemption. It talks about how he overcome addiction, how he overcome a life in the organized crime world to try to become a productive member of society. That's what that book is about. I never write true crime for the gore or for entertainment. Those things do not belong in the true crime world as far as I'm concerned. True crime to me is a travesty of justice. True crime isn't something for entertainment. I could get a whole lot more viewership if I studied all of the famous crimes and forgot the obscure ones. But I refuse to. The obscure ones need just as much media attention, and they don't get it. And so that's why I'm here today. That's why I built my company, trying to help people, trying to help the warriors that we're going to talk about today. Now, I want to be a New York Times bestseller. I want to be America's #1 true crime writer. And I want to have a TV show that I host that solves hundreds of cases. Why? I want that because I want these people to have justice. And if I can get millions of subscribers and I can get these stories out to millions of people, we will solve it. You see, it doesn't matter what I achieve, what kind of awards I've gotten already, and what kind of awards I will get in the future, because I've already received the best reward possible. I was working a series of cases out of Texas, and a victim's family member, which I call warriors, because I don't have to label them victims. A warrior named Miss Dottie, she called her governor. He flew a flag over Washington, D.C. in honor of my cold case work, had it folded and had it sent to me. I have it behind bars. So it doesn't matter what I achieve in the future, that is the greatest reward I could ever get, because it came from a mama. It came from a warrior fighting for justice for her son. And to me, that's what this is about. So why am I here today? I'm here today to talk to you about a county that needs help. We are standing in a building that is magnificent. In 1912, they spent $4.2 million to build this place. In 2016, they dumped another $30 million into this building to restore it. You look at this building, it's majestic. You look at it, you stand in it, you think this is the greatest country in the world. And I believe it is. But I also believe that it's broken. Our system has failed these mothers, brothers, sisters, aunts, and uncles. Our system has failed. It's broken. But I'm here to tell you it can be fixed. It can be fixed by each and every one of us. You see, America is not great because of our government. Our government is great, but our government is not what makes America great. The people is what makes America great. And as long as we have the hearts of Americans in this country, we have the potential to be the greatest nation in the world. We have the potential to bring justice to every case. I believe the majority of cases can be solved, but a lot of times they go cold because nobody talks about them. Law enforcement are not magicians. They are not superheroes. They can't just wave a magic wand and here's the evidence. They have to follow the evidence that's presented to them. And if there is no evidence, the case goes cold. And you've got mothers like my dear friend Marianne, who created the Missouri Missing Organization. She has been fighting, trying to find her daughter for 20 years. The man that killed her got away with it. He served 4 years in prison claiming it was an accident. She spent 20 years with a shovel in her trunk, waiting for someone to give her tips so she could dig for her own daughter's remains. And today, she's gone. Today, I wear a little green bracelet on my wrist. I tied that on there the last time I talked to Marianne. You see, Marianne died this year. And I didn't bring home her sweet angel. I told her I would not stop talking about her until she's home or the day I die. And that will be tied to my wrist in my casket if I don't succeed. See, that's what I work for. I don't work for the fancy lights and the cameras. I work for the mothers that are standing just off to the side that you can't see. That's what I do. That's why I'm here. And I believe if we continue to talk about these cases, we can actually bring in the help these mothers need. So I've written about 300 blogs, and I fought alone for 5 years. I fought alone trying to raise awareness about these cases, build an audience. But now I have 2 assistants that's come to help me. One is Cricket Andrews. Cricket Andrews is in Pennsylvania. She's not here with me today. She would have loved to be here. But Cricket Andrews was a victim's advocate fighting alone. She's come by my side to support me, and I'm very much grateful for Cricket. I also have my sweet assistant, Tammy. With these 2 women, I believe we can come to the world. We will make a change. We will make a difference in these cases. I also have a potential viewership now of 1.1 million viewers. That is based solely on the generosity of others. Other podcasters, other YouTubers, other websites, other people who believe in the cause. Together, they have allowed me access to share stories. And together we have a combined viewership of 1.1 million people. With those kinds of numbers, we can really make a difference. And I thank you for all of you people that have given me access to share with you. I appreciate it. So let me tell you about the county we're here to talk about. The county that we're here to talk about is Madison. Madison County in Missouri. We're not talking about a far and distant land. We're talking about in southern Missouri, southeastern Missouri. It's 500 square miles of beautiful countryside. There's only about 13,000 people that actually live there, so it's not overpopulated. It's a beautiful, quiet country place to live. You would think it's a wonderful place to raise your family. The county seat is Fredericktown, and out of Fredericktown, there's only 4,000 people there. So it's not a very well-populated place. But unfortunately, Fredericktown has a problem, and Madison County has a problem. They have a crime rate almost as high and comparable to Chicago. Now, Chicago is massively bigger than a 4,000 people in a country town. That's nothing compared to the population of Chicago. So why do they have such a crime rate? I tell you, I believe that there are some fundamental problems with this county. There's a lack of education, there's poverty, there's drugs. There's not enough attention paid to the problem to get the help we need. I believe those fundamental problems can be fixed. So I'm going to start with you today on July 15th, 2010. July 2010, there was a 19-year-old man who was beaten and left on the road to die. He was hit by a car, and everything was classed as an accident. Well, unfortunately, when you go through the autopsy, you find out he sustained many injuries that had nothing to do with the car. You could tell that he had been beaten brutally before he was laid out in the street. Unfortunately, there was no investigations, and this story didn't even make headlines. Even in this little county, that story was a one-paragraph story on the back page of the newspaper that said, somebody died in the road today. And that was the end of it. Doug Teal was that young man. He had life going for him. He had gotten a nice job. He didn't have his own rig yet, but he had gotten a nice job, and he had just come from a work party where they were actually supporting him and promoting him because he was one of their better salesmen. He rode home with an associate and someone that he knew from that area, and that person had car problems, and he ended up having to walk the rest of the way home. Unfortunately, he did not make it. Now, this is the problem. There's all kinds of behind-the-scenes information. There's all kinds of extenuating circumstances that go into this story that we could spend hours talking about. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter what he said, she said, they did. It doesn't matter what the rumor mill says. The basic facts are this. The boy had injuries that looked like he had been beaten. The injuries do not add up to the narrative that we are given, and nobody's investigating. This mother has fought since 2010, and she is not here to say something today. But if you would like, do you have a picture of Doug Teal up here? She has one. Okay. Well, if he's able to make it later, we'll show something. So you think, okay, one kid ended up in the road. It's not investigated. It's not a problem. I'm going to tell you a few years later, another young man ended up in the road as well. He was given a hot shot just down the road in the same county, in the same town, and he was laid out in the road. You see, if you have a problem and you're wanting to get rid of somebody, it's a real convenient way to lay them out in front of a car, because then it becomes a hit and run accident. And that's what this one was labeled. Even though none of the stories made sense around this boy's death. His name was Jacob Kirkpatrick, and he hasn't gotten any justice either. Now this is we're talking about two cases. I've got 15 cases out of this one county and 10 public correction cases. I started with one case out of this, and it led down to one rabbit hole out of another. That's the way this goes in this county. I believe that there is a problem. We need to have some support to these families. If law enforcement don't have the equipment they need, if they don't have the support they need, if they don't have the education they need, I suggest we give it to them. I'm not the first to stand up and shout police corruption all the time, because I believe police are human beings like everyone else. There is a lot of corruption out there, but I don't believe that fits in every single case. I want to tend to believe that they don't have what they need because it's a poor community. I would like to believe that maybe they're just not getting the funding they need or the education that they need. Whatever the reason may be, I have a lot more cases we can cover. I do believe one fundamental problem we have in this country as a whole is the fact that media coverage does not cover everyone equally. Now, I'm going to give you some cases. Everyone knows when you say John Bonet, you don't even have to say her last name. Everyone in America knows who I'm talking about. Beautiful little girl. Her case is tragic and horrible. I do not devalue it in any way, but I would like to know how many millions of marketing dollars have been spent on that case. And then I will tell you that 0 marketing dollars have been spent on the cases I'm telling you today. And I want to ask you, in this beautiful building where everything looks perfect, is our system broken? I contend that it is. We need more coverage for smaller cases, and these mothers are not getting it. I have another case, and if you think maybe that this is not a problem for everyone, I'm going to tell you about a little girl named Alexis. On May 3rd of 2002, it was her last day of school in Milwaukee. She lived within 100 yards from her house to the school. She walked to the end of the sidewalk with her stepfather. He handed her over to the crossing guard, who was supposed to help her across the street. And yet that little girl didn't make it to school. They talked about her for 6 weeks in her town of Milwaukee. But then she was immediately forgotten because the national media exploded over a case 1,400 miles away of Elizabeth Smart. Elizabeth Smart is another one of those names that you can mention it and everybody has a vague idea of what was going on. But what people don't realize, while millions of marketing dollars were spent on the media for Elizabeth Smart, Alexis Patterson was forgotten. Her name didn't appear in the newspapers anymore. There was still her family, her friends, all of the warriors fighting for justice. They still cried every night. They still tried to petition for help. They begged for help, but no one would listen because she was overshadowed. Her case is still unsolved. I contend our system is broken. On April 2021, heading back to Fredericton, we have a 19-year-old football player. 19-year-old football player who had just won a scholarship to play college football. He was getting his life on the track to be an adult. He had his dreams, his hopes, his ambitions, everything was ahead of him. He was asked to go to a birthday party with someone he knew back when he was younger, when he was a kid. He didn't know him real well. They were going to go to Fredericton to this little birthday party. And then he was going to go 30 minutes on past Fredericton to where his grandmother lived. Well, unfortunately, he would never make it. Durante Martin went to this party thinking he was going to meet some people he hadn't met before, reconnect with people he knew before, and then he was going to go to grandma's. That never happened. He got there to this house that police know well. This is a home that police know well. He ends up at 3 o'clock in the morning. A 911 call is made. The homeowner, without any emotion in his voice whatsoever, says, "There has been a kid's just shot himself in my attic." What people don't want to tell you is this is the second suspicious death on this man's property. Surely someone's going to question this. Nothing's questioned. The only people questioning are the family, the warrior, the victim's family members. That's the only people that are questioning anything. This case is immediately labeled suicide, even though the child had no suicidal tendencies. He was not a known drug addict. And he also had his dominant arm in a cast from his elbow to his fingertips, because he had just had surgery. Nobody takes this into account. Nobody cares. It's dismissed as suicide. But then people start questioning the autopsy. Nothing made sense. The family pushed hard and paid good money to have a second autopsy done. Because the coroner that had been doing the autopsy the first time around, his work had been drawn into question several times. So they just decided they were going to get a second autopsy. That second autopsy, the findings were death by violence. They did not rule suicide. So surely the police would reopen the case, right? Nothing's done. The police have not investigated and will not investigate. They have made their determinations. They don't care if a autopsy proves them wrong. They're not doing anything with it. I will also tell you that this is a case of a black young man who was killed in a white man's house who happens to like to put racial slurs on Facebook. Surely that will bring attention. It brought a little bit of buzz. The FBI comes in and says, no, it's not a hate crime, and they move on. Surely they're going to reopen the case, though. No, the case is still closed. It's not going to open. Nobody takes into question the first man that was killed on this property. The first young man that died on this property a few years before was named Nick Valerie. He somehow was classed as suicide, even though his body was found rolled up in a rug. I'm not sure how it's humanly possible to do that to yourself and roll yourself in a rug. If that's not enough to make you question, there are hundreds of details that I cannot add to this speech or we would be here for hours. There was also a witness that was at that party that claims that Durante did not kill himself. He said he knew who shot him and that it was a homicide. This young man's name is J.P. Parton. J.P. Parton happens to go missing just before the jury inquest. You see, the family fought hard, and they got a jury inquest. They're going to prove that this boy did not do this to himself. The jury inquest does not hear the testimony of J.P. Parton because J.P. Parton is missing. Now, J.P. Parton's case is potentially solved. They did finally find the man who killed him. They could not find the remains because of the disposal process. But they do believe they know who killed him. He says it has nothing to do with the Durante case, it has something to do with something else. But still, no one is questioning it. No one is questioning why the one witness who is publicly saying Durante was not suicidal, he did not do this himself. No one is questioning the fact that the one witness was taken care of. I contend our system is broken. My plan was to actually take breaks between each one of these cases and let the warriors that are involved in these cases come to you and show you their pictures and their signs. But some of them weren't able to make it, and others are running behind, and they still haven't been. So I am going to go to the warrior that is here. On February 28, 2022, a 911 call comes into dispatch near Fredericktown. Unfortunately, they do not record this phone call. They have several different excuses why, but this recording is not available. This young man had been brought to Fredericktown by a friend, and that friend now was threatening his life. So he gets a phone call in the wee hours of the morning, February 28th, begging for help from an organization that his tax dollars pay to help. That help arrives a few minutes later at that location, but unfortunately, that officer gets distracted. Does not look for Teeny D's who made the phone call, does not look for the friend who he said was threatening his life. Instead, this officer gets distracted, and the man that is there has a warrant, so he arrests this man. I do not know what policy or procedure this man was following. I do not know if it's lack of education, if it's just a simple human error, but that error would have deadly consequences. 182 yards from the foot of where that officer showed up and did not do his job, 182 yards later away, 4 months later, Timmy D's body would be found. Now, this police department has no explanation of this boy's cause of death. They can't tell you if he was shot. They can't tell you if he was stabbed. They can't tell you if he was given a hot shot, if he was smashed in the head with a rock. Nobody. They can't tell you anything. They actually propose at one point maybe he laid down and just died because he got cold. I contend we don't know. And I'm not placing any blame against any officer specifically. I am saying there's too many questions to stop investigating. Too many questions. Now, the warriors that is here for Timmy D's, I will let her come forward. Her name is Barbara. This is the mother of Timmy D's. I'd like you to come forward, Barbara, and show me your pictures and tell us a little bit about Timmy.
is my son, Timmy D. He was 25 years old. He loved his job. He was funny. He was sorry. I miss him every day. But I don't believe that Timmy just laid down in the woods and died. He called for help. He didn't get the help that he deserved. He was a wonderful person. He had a huge heart. And I'm just asking the case will be reopened. Have a petition. I would appreciate it if anybody that wants to help to sign the petition so that the case could be reopened. Because there's new evidence. I got blessed from a foundation, True Crime Web Foundation, was taken to these cases, found new evidence, presented to the prosecutor just this past Friday. And we're hoping that they'll look at it and we'll get the case held. And it's been my life helping others get the answers that they need. And Synova, she's been wonderful. Just don't know how to express how grateful I am to be here to speak on behalf of us babies. There's been so many people that have helped. But the main people are the ones that I'm begging from that can make a difference and change laws and open cases that should be open to get the justice that our families and loved ones deserve. And thank you all for your time.
So this is Barbara. She's a warrior. She's one of many that I work with in the camps. Barbara is telling you about her son, but she has spent hundreds and hundreds of hours helping to promote the stories of other people's sons. She doesn't just take the time to talk about Timothy's. She also mentions Doug Peel and Devontae and Jacob Kirkpatrick. I've got so many cases I couldn't fit them all in one speech. But this is what we're here to talk about today. And I wanted to commend Barbara for all of her hard work. Because she works for everyone. She doesn't just work for her person. And to me, that is the difference. I have written about 300 cases. And I see some people that rise up out of that trauma and do great things. And then I see some that are buried by it. She has the sparks of a phoenix and she will rise above it and she will make the world a better place. That's what Marianne did. And I see that within her. She will rise above this and she will become the phoenix that other people can see. So I want to talk to you about more cases. There are so many cases I cannot cover them all. Barbara told me we have a picture of Jacob Kirkpatrick. Jacob Kirkpatrick was the second victim that was laid out in the road. His picture is over here to my left. Jacob Kirkpatrick called an individual several times that evening. He needed to ride away from a dangerous place. He was just stopping there and going to leave. He wasn't planning on staying, and they killed him while he was there. I don't know what he's seen that he should have seen. I don't know who he got into an argument, if he did, but something happened to Jacob that day, and he was not allowed to leave that house. Now, we do know that he was given a hot shot that's not humanly possible to survive from, so if he hadn't have been hit by that car, he would have been dead. Jacob was not a drug user at the time of his death. He had been rehabilitated, and he had gotten his life together. Jacob Kirkpatrick still has no justice. And again, this is another story that we're not getting coverage from in this county. There are several strange deaths out of Madison County. I have one, her name's Ashley Whitlow. Now, Ashley Whitlock was found beaten and hanging from a shower curtain in her own feet. It doesn't matter that she was beaten. It doesn't matter that the ligatures on her neck and the belt that she was hung with was fastened on the wrong side, making it to where she would have had to use her non-dominant hand. No one's taken into account that we all know a shower curtain has a hard time holding up a wet shower curtain. How many of you have gotten out of a tub, grabbed the shower curtain by mistake, and end up in the floor? And yet that curtain rod in an RV is supposed to hold up a full-sized woman. We're not talking a tiny little kid, a little girl. We're talking a grown woman. A grown woman. There is no way a shower curtain rod could have done that. And I have never, in all the 300 cases I've worked, seen someone beat themselves up before they commit suicide. But again, this is not questioned. There's no investigation, and it's dismissed. In this county, it seems like if there's anything that is uncomfortable, it's labeled overdose, it's labeled suicide, it's forgotten. See, nobody wants to talk about those things. But if you're addicted to something, that doesn't make you less of a human being. That doesn't mean that you don't have a right to justice. It means you're addicted to something and you need help. If you become addicted to something, it doesn't mean that case should be swept under a rug. But in this county, it seems as if anything to do with drugs, they're going to label it an overdose and a suicide and sweep it away because it's uncomfortable. Well, I'm here to talk about the uncomfortable things. Because while you're uncomfortable talking about it and you're uncomfortable printing these things in your papers, there's moms that are crying themselves to sleep. There's dads that can't look into the eyes of their little girls and give them away on their wedding day. There are people hurting. So at some point in time, you're going to have to get a little uncomfortable. To fix this system that's broken, you're going to have to get a little uncomfortable. We're going to have to step out of that comfort zone, talk about the uncomfortable things, lend the help where it's needed. Ashley Whitlock isn't the only case that's suspicious. There was a man who had no suicidal tendencies whatsoever, ended up hanging from a tree in the park next to the police station. His name is Andrew Fox. Again, it's labeled suicide, and again, there's no investigation. The case is dismissed. When you look on this county's website, and you look on the city website, they give you their crime statistics. They literally have the audacity to say that their homicide rate is 0. It's real easy to get a 0 homicide rate when you mislabel every case you have. If that is not enough to disturb you, we have several public corruption cases out of this same county. In 2010, you will find out, if you do a little bit of internet research, you'll find out in 2010, the police captain for Fredericktown was arrested, put away for life, plus a few years, because he had a tendency, he liked to sexually assault young boys. He was the police captain, and he was the Boy Scout leader. He was put away for, I think he got multiple life terms plus a few years. He's not coming out. He's rotting in jail right where he needs to be. But this is someone that they said they thought was part of the good ones. They literally said he was one of the good guys in this county. In 2005, an officer was arrested for stealing evidence. Now, all of this is allegedly because by the time the trial comes around, there's not enough evidence left to convict him. Why do I mention that? The sheriff that's in power right now has been questioned by local media because more evidence has been going missing. I don't say this is corruption, and again, I'm not accusing anyone. I am saying there is a fundamental problem. If you cannot store evidence, retrieve the evidence when you need it, then there's a problem. Do you need a better facility? Do you need better funding? Do you need better education? What do you need to do your job properly? That's what I'm asking for. If your evidence has gone missing off and on since 2005, then perhaps it's time to get some help on evidence collection and evidence storage. In 2009, there's another case that has been swept under the rug. 2009 was a sexual harassment lawsuit against the public officials in that county. That case has been unsolved, and I could not find in all my research whatever happened to that poor woman. I did not find her in the obituaries. I'm very glad to see. In 2005, the deputy collector was arrested for stealing tax money. In 2014, a deputy is dismissed after allegedly abusing a 14-year-old girl during interrogations. No, we have to say allegedly because he did not follow protocol. He did not have anyone in the room with him. He did not have any rise in child services. He did not have any kind of person there to support the child in any way. So I have to say allegedly. I'm not saying this man actually abused this girl or not. I'm saying the protocol was not followed. Is that a lack of education? Did he not have the officer that he needed to support him in that process? I'm saying he put himself in a bad situation walking into that room with that himself. Whether he did it or not, I'm not saying he did. I'm saying we need help in this county. There's education that needs to be done. There's funding that needs to be done. Timmy D's 911 call was not recorded because their recording equipment was messed up and they didn't have the funding to fix it. I'm from the 80s. I find that a little insane. Put a boombox there and record it if you have to. Being sarcastic here. But I'm telling you, there's a way to record a phone call, whether it's standard procedure or not. Now we have a warrior fighting for justice for Timmy D's, and we really need that 911 report, but it's not there. I'm not accusing. I'm saying, what do you need? What do you need to do your job properly? And if you have all of the things you need, and you still do not do your job properly, perhaps it's time to get another job. I'd like to tell you that that's all the public corruption cases I have, but I have a few more for you. October of 2022. The soccer coach. The soccer coach was arrested as part of a massive multi-million-dollar healthcare fraud scheme. This is your soccer coach that's teaching your children about loyalty and trust and teamwork, stealing massive amounts of money from our healthcare system. And Lord knows that system's broken too. September of 2014, a Madison County deputy is arrested for stealing $40,000 from an old woman. He had showed up to this woman's house. She had needed some help. He had him help her move her safe. Well, while he was there, he seen she had $40,000 cash. He sneaks in the next day while she's outside doing her yard work. He steals the $40,000 cash. They find him. They arrest him. They dismiss him from the police department. His big excuse was, I promise I did not do it in uniform. I contend it didn't matter whether you have your badge on or not. It's what's in your heart. It's not what's on the badge. If you don't have the loyalty and justice in your heart, you don't deserve the badge. So in closing, I'd like to tell you that this is all the cases there are. I have 103 cases that I'm combining into a book right now. Okay? The reason being is because these stories need to be told. This county has had problems since 1821. I have a story of a hideous lynching from 1821. A man had earned a stay of execution because he had a circus of a trial, and he was waiting to move to another county so he could get a fair trial. The citizens of Fredericktown did not like that. They busted into the jail. They hung him in the yard with him screaming for help. The sheriff, they they compelled the sheriff to stand aside. This has been a problem in this county. I contend that Madison County has been the Wild West since before there was a Wild West. The Wild West was a time frame from 1865 to 1890. I have cases going back to 1821. There are more cases than I can mention here, and I would like to tell you that they contain all of their crime in Madison County. But there are a dozen more cases that this crime, this area affects. There are a dozen more cases that actually tie back to Fredericktown or Madison County in one way. I did not include them here because they didn't actually occur in Madison County, but they have connections here. I contend that this is our problem. You might think, I'm sitting up here in a beautiful building in Jeff City. What difference does it make to me? It's not my problem. I contend that the crime, the drugs, the poverty, the problems of Madison County affect us all. I contend that it reaches all the way across the state, and I ask for help. That's what I'm here for. They asked if I would come petition for help, and I said I would, because it is my fault. I don't live in that county. I wouldn't drive a car through that county to save my life. I would not do it. After all I've seen in that county, I won't even drive through that county. But it is my problem. It is my problem because there's a lot of good people that live there that can't do anything about it. You've got a lot of poverty-stricken people that would love to live somewhere else if they could, but they can't. You've got a lot of people who need an education that can't get the education they need. So this is why I'm here. I'm here to give a voice and ask for help. I compel you to not hold your eyes, not cover your eyes. Don't hide from this. Get out of your comfort zone and give us the help we need. You see, we want to wait for a hero. We have this tendency, Hollywood likes to tell stories where heroes come in and save the day and clean up the county. Well, I contend that you can be the hero. See, while everybody's sitting back waiting for someone else to be the hero, nothing's being done. In reality, you have what's within you to be the hero. You may not be able to have a badge. I don't have a badge. I have a pen. I can write. I can speak, and I have some marketing skills. So I use what I have to make a difference. And I contend that everybody here, if you use what you have to make a difference, this world will be a better place. People like Durante Martin didn't deserve to die in that man's attic and not get justice. People like Timmy Dees didn't deserve to call 911 and then them not even help them when they showed up. They did not deserve that. I contend that one day I will become a New York Times bestseller. I will get a TV show. I will help solve hundreds of cases. And I compel you to do what you can. Because see, when I get to be there, I can pull in millions of people to watch this. Right now, I've got 1.1 million potential viewers that will see this. But when I pull in the numbers, 100 million people, that's when things will change. But we can't wait until that happens. That's what I'm fighting for. That's what I'm chasing. But we can't wait till I get there. You today can go home and share these stories online. They're all on my blog. You've got some people here that have their own podcasts, their own blogs. You can share them online. You can make a difference with what you're capable of doing, and that's all we're asking for. I compel you to become a hero today, and I thank you for coming.